Let's turn the power up a bit so anybody with small dishes has a reasonable chance. Not TXing tonight, Malcolm. Okay, you had me all excited there. Need to get you on sometime. Good evening, Don. Great to see so many on tonight. Parish notices, it's the closing date for articles for CQTV on Monday, so please can we have everything preferably by Sunday, please, so we can get the magazine together and out before Christmas. That is the main thing we're up to at the moment. Some construction projects going on. I'm sure Noel will talk about one of them. And perhaps I'll talk about one of the others later, as will Mike. But let's put it round to Jen, and I'll start off with what I'm doing at the end of the round. Seems to be some audio problems on the stream. I'll fix that in a minute. Have I got audio on me? Yep, I have got audio on my transmission. So round to Jen. G4HIZ to take it, and the BATC Net G8GKQ. BATC Net G8GKQ.
Good evening, everyone. G4HIZ, located Maidstone in Kent. Anyway, haven't been on for a few weeks. Unfortunately, work has taken preference. Anyway, bit of a break now. So, been managing to get a few things done. And the first thing was to finish the Ryde receiver, which I have sitting just under the monitor over here. There's quite a small die-cast box. In this case, all I have in it is the Pi 4 front panel PCB, a DC-DC converter, and the tuner is underneath the monitor, which is my original Minitune Mark 1, which has now been upgraded with the latest Cerit tuner. And the only problem was the Cerit tuner is a bit bigger, so there's a bit of a squeeze getting it in, but there we are. And so that's the receive set up tonight, and it's working very well. I think the Ryde receiver is great. There's only one thing I noticed: it tends to get captured by adjacent channels occasionally. I don't know if anyone's looking at that aspect, but anyway, there we are. Good. But other than that, going through a big tidy up exercise in the shack. Not that you'd notice, because I need to do some plumbing underneath the floorboards, which means moving everything, unfortunately. So there we are. Looking at the list, it's G8GTZ next, so it's G4HIZ passing over to G8GTZ.
One, two, audio check. One, two. Right, slightly earlier than expected. Good evening, viewers. I've made some notes. No construction going on, so I'll go straight on to what I'm experimenting with, which is VLC with the mini tuner. I've spent weeks trying to get it to work and then decided to contact Dave, GKQ, and ask some questions, and we got it going. Apparently, if you're using an internal network just in the same computer, you still need an external one. Don't understand that, but there we go, there must be good reasoning behind it. So anyway, that's up and running, and the reason I'm trying it is to improve audio, to see what stations that have got audio problems are like on VLC, and also to do with aspect ratio. I've told some stations that their aspect ratio is wrong on the mini tuner, and that I can obviously I can do it, select manually, and they say it's all right on the VLC. So that's what I'm trying out, and I think they're wrong actually. With the VLC set in default, if someone transmits a 16:9 as 4:3, then it's not right. So you can't blame the receiving end, it's getting it right at the transmitter. Otherwise everybody else has got to manually adjust it or put up with funny shaped clocks and globes. But that's what I'm experimenting with. I was thinking of writing something for the magazine, but I think all it will end up is me ranting on about the people who don't read the band plan. So I've got nothing to say at the moment. Quick one for Noel if he's listening now. I think some of our emails crossed the other week about our exploits. Right, okay, I'll put the test card up and cut carrier, and I think it's going to be null if it actually works, but we'll see how we go.
Right, don't know what happened to Noel. Let's just make sure I've got some audio. Right, I have some audio as well. That's good. I don't have a picture yet on the Ryde. It seems to be taking a long time to lock, which has me puzzled, but there you go. Here's my screen, just to show really Winter Hill is working okay. Problem is all the signals keep coming and going so fast that it's hard to actually concentrate on one or the other, but it will show 4 different ones, including one of them, which is the first one, which is what I'm sending at the moment, then OE6GKD, DF3FF and the beacon, but there are much more here and there. Right, yes, Everest wants me to show the analysis, but I'm not running the firmware he thinks I'm running, so that that might confuse him, because I'm using H.264 as well, which is very, very well behaved in terms of its constant bit rate. Anyway, hopefully that gives you what you want to see, Everest, and I'm going to transition to a picture of something else, which is something I've been working on. Hopefully I can show you this. I mean, when I say I've been working on it, it's not really me, it's other people who develop the software and do all the clever stuff. I just do the PCBs. But this is the shaky cam view of the water dragon. You would not be mistaken for thinking it's a mini-tune. And as usual, let's just give it some text to try and get it to focus. C920 is notoriously bad at focusing, as everybody knows. Anyway, that's the latest board, and the reason it looks like a mini tuner is because actually it is. It's just been modified with a new footprint for a different tuner. It's much shorter tuner if you look at it that way around in terms of height, but otherwise the same. Everything else is the same, and this is the project. But we've been doing some very interesting tests. Oops. It even comes with a description as to what it is. We've been doing some rather interesting tests, and it's working okay. Not stunning. It's nowhere near as good as the Cerit on DVB-S, but then it works on DVB-T, and that's what we're trying to do. Right. So, okay, Roger. Let's go back to a picture, and then let's go back to a picture of me. Roger, your pictures did not look like Winter Hill to me, and bear in mind I live up there, or I used to live up there, and regularly go up there. They look like somewhere else, so I don't think they're Winter Hill. At least if they are, they could be another place nearby Winter Hill, maybe Rivington, or maybe one of the places just down from Winter Hill, but they're not on the hill as far as I could tell. So that was that. Right. The other thing is, I don't think there's much else to say on this over, and we've got a lot of people on, so I'll pass it round. I understand that I'm passing it to Martin, G4FKK. Oh, I didn't switch my screen. Sorry about that. Try again. So over to you, Martin. G4FKK, G0 Mike Juliet Whiskey.
Okay, hopefully that'll burst forth any minute. I can hear my tones coming back, far from dulcet. Anyway, good evening everybody. Nice to see everyone on that I've seen so far, and I've not got much to report. I have built a Ryde since last week, and really impressed. I mean, it's just lying on the bench with a infrared receiver sticking out of it, but absolutely fabulous. I love the way it locks up so quickly. You can just leave it running without having to restart VLC and all that sort of stuff. Evening to Jen. I don't think we've worked before. Your shack looks beautiful to me. And Noel's coming after me, so hopefully you fix the push to talk, Noel. I'm quite new to all this digital television. I did run black and white 70sems back in the 70s, so it's all changed a bit since then. And despite having worked in the broadcast industry all my life, it's always been radio really. So I don't know all of this new technology, but I've been watching during the last week on the Ryde in astonishment of people running full HD on ridiculously low symbol rates. And I was watching you, Mike, with your 66 and 36, 65 kilosymbols yesterday, I think, and absolutely amazing. So well done. It's nice to sit at the back of the class watching the bright boys at the front. Anyway, so I won't keep it. Oh, Roger, by the way, you should do that article, because I got a good lecture from Roger a week or so ago about where to click on the picture to get the right frequency. I hadn't read it properly either, so write it in big letters, Roger. What was the other thing? I did make a note, but I can't read my own writing, so I'll put it straight round to you, Noel. Hopefully some of you are copying this, and thank you for letting me on this evening. I'll put the test card on, and when I see it coming back, I'll drop the carrier. Thank you. G4FKK to G8 GTZ.
Hurrah! Hurrah! We made it finally. Evening all. Yes, apologies for the two false attempts. It was all to do with the fact I've confused the shack system by setting up a demo very quickly, and to do with the Pluto, and the Pluto is also wired into the system for transmitting on QO100, so it was taking over the PTT. Anyway, we got there in the end, and apologies for that. Evening to one and all. As usual, I'll use that wonderful phrase, not much going on here, but of course there has been quite a bit. Some of the week has been tied up putting GB3BA on, which is a local UHF FM voice repeater for the town I live in. It's working, but it is sort of 1980s technology, so nothing to get too excited about. It'd been sitting on the bench here for about 3 months, running away and running about 2.5-3 watts, and took it up to site, and it's only generating 1 watt. No, sorry, half a watt, so it's not very loud. So I'll have to fix that. And the other thing on the fix list is the GB3HV TV repeater. The 70sems receiver seems to have locked up and crashed, so nobody can get in on 70sems, so that's something else I've got to do. I was using lockdown as an excuse not to go to site, but now that's over and done with, I'm actually using the weather for the excuse at the moment. But if you think I'm going out mending repeaters on days like today, it's pretty awful. Right, so what was the excitement about? Well, it was one of those dull moments. I think Dave GKQ, I sent him an email earlier today, prompted by Evereast tweet on the Pluto, saying, and Evereast says Pluto goes down to 48 megs. And I copied it to Colin EML about Langston, and I got a reply back, don't think so, not going to do that. And a couple of hours later I got a reply back saying, I've just tested this and I think it's happening on 50 megs. So anyway, I've put it on the bench here and done a bit more testing than Dave did, and sure enough it does work. So what we're saying is yeah, as Mike, I knew Mike would come up and say this. It does go down to 48 megs. So we have now got the ports down. We'll do 50 megs to 10 gigs, and I was going to just run a little demo just to prove that it does, and that's what caused the confusion, because I had the Pluto transmitting and it took over the PTT line. So that's the spectrum at 50 megs, and it does actually produce the full output. So it's I think it's about -5 out of a Pluto on 50 megs, and it certainly seemed to be that's so it's not wonderful on spectrum. It's about 30 plus shoulders, but the MER actually is very good. If I just wind the camera back. If I just plug that into a mini tuner, which happens to be running over here. You will you'll see that on 50 megs, I mean, that's giving D32 on 50 megs. So that's a pretty neat gone too far. Pretty neat piece of kit. So the ports down 4 will now do 50 megs. Memories, no, you have already test extension. Happy to see it. Yes. Yeah. So that's 50 megs up to 6 gigs and potentially 10 gigs on ports down 4. So it's quite remarkable. Colin is going to investigate the Langston as a separate topic, but it seems pretty good. Yeah, Mark G0NMY. No, not really. Mark's saying that could give us some awesome DX on 50 megs. No, unfortunately, DVB-S just doesn't work in that environment. It's pretty awful because of the single carrier nature of DVB-S. It won't take any propagation modes which do phase changes, or so that's the reason why Mike gave you a sneak preview of another board. It's alright, I'm reading the chat as we go. Which is why Mike gave you a sneak preview of another board, and there'll be a little bit more in CQTV about it. We're looking at whether we can do an OFDM receiver, a variable bandwidth OFDM receiver. And Mike's done some hardware, and now there's a lot of work to be done before we get the software to run on it. So we'll see. All I would say is, yes, we're looking at it, but I wouldn't. Please don't keep pestering the development teams. They get on a lot better if you don't pester them or ask stupid questions on the forum. There we go. Good. So that's what's going on here. So that's pretty interesting. I think Colin May will have a look at Langston to see if we could include 50 megs on that as well, because that would be pretty cool. Right. Okay. I think that's enough damage from me tonight. As Bernie's probably saw, the optical stuff is still on the bench. We were going to go out tomorrow and do a QSO, but the weather put us off, so to go. Anyway, round to Jim. Hopefully the audio has been loud enough for you, Jim. Gee,
Right, good evening. Just make sure my audio is not going to fade back. And yeah, not a huge amount to tell you this week. Nothing to show you because I've sold it all. It's all gone. So, there's one just gone off to Greece. That's a Ryde receiver that I've built for Dionysius. Sugar Victor 8 Romeo Victor, who hadn't got the ability, well, I don't think he had got the facilities to build one, so I put one together for him, and that was working very nicely. And he'll get that in a couple of weeks, I think. I also sent off another big power amp. I did build another one, but it wasn't quite up to scratch. It very inefficient. I couldn't. It started off at low power, and I tuned it, and I got power out of it. But unfortunately, it drew a lot more current, so it got a lot hotter. So I thought, well, I'm not going to sell that as a normal one. I'll just eBay it. So I put everything, put it on eBay, and so if you just look, you find it if you look under S-Hale. And I told the whole truth about it, every detail. The fact that it'll do 60 watts continuous, and anything more than that and it gets too hot. So perfect for S-Hale, no problem at all. But it's been on about 3 days, and obviously I'm not charging enough because they've gone silly with bidding for it. So I'm monitoring it. But never mind, we'll see what happens. Might be a good Christmas present. The other comment I noticed was from Jen, G4HIZ, about the Ryde's ability to pick up adjacent channels in between people transmitting. If you leave too long a gap and there's a station on the next channel, it'll jump straight to that. Brilliant at it. But it's not too difficult to overcome. You a few seconds, go onto the menu, onto presets, flick it to the beacon, then come back to this station, and it'll sort it out all right. It isn't a problem. It's just finding out what to do. It's just knowing how to do it quickly, so you're not messing about. Right, I think that's enough from me for this over. So I'm going to put it around to G0DQH. So this is G7NTG. I'll catch you a bit later.
Okay, just check that I do have audio, which I do. Great, okie doke. Yeah, good evening everyone from DQH. Power supplies. As you know, I work part-time for a telecoms company, and the service manager knows what I do for a hobby, so he asked me in the week whether I'd like some of these. If anybody's interested, they're 24 volts DC out at 6 amps. They're very substantially made, and they have a DIN plug. Whoops, I'll point to the camera. A DIN plug that end, but they're quite weighty. They weigh nearly a kilo, and I have about 10 of these at the moment, and they're free. If anybody would like one, they're free. And all I ask is that I'm reimbursed for the postage, which I think will be about £5. So if anybody's interested, they're 24 volts at 6 amps, DC of course. And if you're watching John tonight, and I'm sure you are, these are the
the sun welder batteries that we were talking about in the week. Lithium polymer, and I have about 10 of those, and they're yours. So, but you've got to come and get them. Okay, that's about it from me tonight. I won't be back the next time if you don't mind, but I will continue watching for a while. This is G0DQH. Who's next in the list? I wonder. So G4HJW to take it from G0DQH.
I'll just give that a bit more umpty, I think. Not much more, a little bit more. Evening all, G4HJW. I'll get rid of that latest picture in a moment. In fact, I'll do that now. This is like being on the VMARS net on Saturday. You know, the world has gone by for the time you get your turn. I don't imagine that far forward to the next over, but never mind. I'm pleased all is on, and John, I'm pleased you're looking, because the only thing I've got to talk about is optical, as you probably know. But there were two comments. Those pictures, I had a few years in Bolton. I didn't recognise either of those two pictures. I had a year up in Winter Hill. I didn't recognise those two. And whoever said it could be Stamford, the only thing in that area in Lincolnshire that we got from Granada was Coronation Street. So I don't know why they would have those pictures, but it's interesting to see them. I'm always interested in the old test card, by the way, so I'm pleased somebody's still digging those up. But I'm going to go on to optical now. I think I've an excuse to do that because Noel put an email out on what you'd think was the defunct nanowave reflector. It stays quiet for 6 months at a time, but it really does. It's like sporadic heat. It suddenly comes alive when somebody puts one post out to it. And I notice your reply as well, John, if you're watching. So that was all pretty good, and it is interesting to see activity. There is activity going on that doesn't get reported, and you know I'm going to talk about, let me just put this chap up, I'll put that on. This is Marek, SP4ELF. I don't know why I'm looking at the camera since I put that up there. And he's taken a lot of Finley Mark II receivers. He's now over 10, I think he's had about a dozen. And you can see they're really busy over there, and despite the low power and the small optics, they seem to be really enthusiastic. And he's constantly wanting more, and I make them in a sort of Heath Robinson, no, that's the wrong word. I make them in a, what should I say, a Rolls Royce, not in terms of quality, but in speed, sort of way. So it takes me ages to do them, but it is nice to be getting rid of them. So I'm very pleased about that. And he sent me that photograph today, so that was daytime red LED. So I think the 14 kilometres was fairly good, really. I'm pleased with that, given the low power and the small optics. That was quite good. And John was talking about could you use, well, I think it was you, John, wasn't it, talking about could you use an airfield beacon to listen to, but everything out there makes noise. There's nothing I see optical that's got a clean note, so they don't bother to smooth the mains too much. I don't suppose it really matters, so I think that makes it all the more interesting. Anyway, nothing of this is to do with TV, really. and I've probably got everybody asleep now. So, oh yes, I'm just looking at the comment. I saw my first 128 kilobit signal today, and it was 16 what do you call it, brains gone. But it's nice to see 16 points on the constellation diagram through chain, and the guy was 15 or 16 dB MER, and the picture quality was absolutely stunning even when you moved. So that was very impressive. Oh yes, I won't read those comments. With enough on that, I ought to be passing it on. I think it should go to Nick. Yes, it is. That's right. So on to you, Nick. G4NKV. I'll put the text.
Right. I've been having a bit of issues with receive today. I didn't get much from Roger at all.
With VLC, you have to reset VLC when moving from one station to another. Otherwise, it stays at the aspect ratio of the previous station. So you just press stop and press start again, or press next, and VLC will then go to the correct aspect ratio. What I do for aspect ratio testing is, having reset VLC, I then right click, go tools, and look at the properties of the transmitted signal, and you can actually see what the aspect ratio is in there. And only when I've looked at those figures will I tell somebody they've got their aspect ratio wrong. So quite often the viewers you're using lie to you. The other problem people have mentioned is capture of the signal in Ryde. Yep, it's a known issue. It's on my list to have a look at. I am really encouraged because I believe that Brian, G4EWJ, has managed to solve that problem for Winter Hill. So at some stage I will speak to Brian and work out how to stop Ryde capturing. It's not in the Ryde that the issue is, it's in the Longmind software, which is part of Ryde. So that's comments on what other people have said. What have I been up to? I suppose the major project this week is this fella. Let's hold that up. Let's see how that works. Oh, yeah, suitably dark. Let's put some light on it, shall we? Light in picture, that's not a good idea. Let's take the light out of the picture. Can we get it out of the picture? Not really. There we go. Right, so just like Mike has been using, this is a BATC Advanced DATV receiver. The software I'm currently running on it is Winter Hill. I've only fitted one tuner, so it works with one tuner. I can see two streams out of that one tuner, and I'm playing with that. Now, the great though Winter Hill is, the reason I'm playing with it is the next step is to get Ryde software running on that. So you just have that single board. So that's a tuner and a Raspberry Pi, single board, and that's your Ryde receiver. You can see the Raspberry Pi there and the tuner there. But there's a way to go on the software on that. Yes, Mike. Yeah, and I've been doing a bit of auditing on the parts list and stuff like that, but Mike has done a terrific job on getting the PCB done. So, there we go. Other things keeping me busy, I've so far written a CQTV article. I've got another one to go. And yes, we would like articles from anybody else. The reason I was asking about whether Martin had a G8 call is because I used to live in that area and I might have actually worked you. I was looking for my old logbook from my 77 AM days in South London. I can't find the logbook, but I will have a look, Martin. And yes, I did start on 405 line positive mod AM that long ago. And the last comment is audio. The reason people had like Nick had problems receiving his own audio after Bernie was Bernie was running MPA and Nick was running AAC, and Minitune does not automatically switch, whereas of course Ryde does. So that was the issues there. Right, let's go round the list once more. G4HIZ to take it. And no, I'm not going to use a red heatsink mic. G8GKQ.
Thanks, Dave. GHEKQ and the BATC Net. This is G4HIZ returning. Anyway, very interesting comments from everybody, and it's good to see some relatively new faces who've probably been up in the last few weeks when I've not. And yes, it was interesting to see the pictures. I think it was Roger put the test card pictures up. Maybe worth putting them into CQTV, see if anybody knows where they are. Who knows? Anyway, next project is on this pile of stuff here. So that's the Portsdown 4, and I'm very lucky that my XYL Joan, who is 2E0HIZ, has bought these things for Christmas, and I don't have to wait 3 weeks. I can start building the Portsdown 4 now. And the way I've got my system here is that basically I can use any controller to control a Line Mini, and it's the same. I have a receiver in the same box, which I can also use with any receiver controller, so I can either use a laptop or Ryde or whatever. Anyway, so we'll be busy in the next few weeks, and there we are. So I'll say 73s to everybody, and look forward to seeing you further down the log, as they say. So I'm just looking for my piece of paper. That's a very good thing, actually, putting your test card up, but I don't actually have a test card at the moment. So what I'll do is I'll put up a piece of paper which says to me that when this comes up on my screen that I've actually finished. So next on the list, I guess, is Roger, GAHKN, G4HIZ, passing it over to you.
Oh, right, okay. Good. So not much else from me, other than to say you've had sneak previews of at least 2 new developments that people are working on. So I thought it was time that in CQTV this month there is going to be. Well, that's good. I don't know what the aspect ratio is, but as long as I look slim, that's fine. Pardon me. There's going to be a short glossary of terms, if you like, describing what each one of these projects is and its name, and with a reference back to the wiki or whatever. So yeah, don't panic if you've heard a lot of names banded around in the last few minutes. There are a couple more that you haven't heard, but they'll probably be in the list as well. And yeah, CQTV this time. I put a post on the forum saying we're interested in a user case study of Ryde. Trouble is, it has to be done by the weekend. I've had 2 offers already, so I guess unless you're really desperate to do it, let me. We'll leave it as it is. CQTV closing date is Monday. So if you've got anything we desperately want to include, let us know. Roger HKN, we could potentially include your pictures. There seems to be some dispute as to whether that was actually Winter Hills, and no doubt you'll address that next time round. Okay, I think that's enough from me for the time being. Thank you, Bernie, for the optical stuff, by the way. Yes, we're just assembling bits at the moment, but I think over the next few weeks you'll see things happening. So good, right, round to you, and best 73 to everybody, and catch you next week. H.
One, two. One, two. Okay, back round to me. Right, I think Mike said he'd like to see the pictures again. Just to let you know, they were transmitted locally from Winter Hill by the ITA in the 60s, and they were actually only locally transmitted. So they could be anywhere in Yorkshire or Lancashire, or anywhere at all, really. It doesn't really matter, does it? I'll just quickly see if I can get them up on screen again. I don't think the quality is... They've got a very strange pattern, and when I scan them, they've got a very strange pattern all over them, which on OBS on the preview looks terrible, but on the program screen don't look too bad. On one transmission it looks okay. That's one. There is somebody on the left hand side there, a small child, and the other one is obviously a mill. Only somebody who it's about H.265 and resetting VLC. Yeah, sometimes you can just leave it and it comes up. Other times there's quite a long lockup time, and then start. John, take off and get an early night once you've finished watching all this. On the forum, someone has been asking about the situation as far as going down to 48 megs. I can't remember what station was, but it seemed to be a very foreign station. It could have been actually just an American, but it was printed a bit strangely. But somebody has been asking about any news on that. And okay on the comments about Rivington. I don't know where that is, but I'll look it up and see if it's in the area. And what else was there? Oh crikey! I think I got through everything I was going to say. As I say, I don't think those slides are going to be good enough quality to put in the magazine, but you never know. Perhaps we could have just a reprint of the band plan as a suggestion, so that the stations that I've told have been on the wrong frequency for the symbol rate, and the ones that have exceeded power on the transponder. About 45 watts. What am I down to? Minus 1.5 dB from the, yeah, I could do, I think it's, and the cold. I have increased the power tonight. I'm still well below the beacon, so I hope most of you are receiving me. Yes, Mike, there is a band plan at the bottom of the spectrum plot. Nobody knows that you can actually produce something by clicking on it, particularly French stations. they think it just means that is the band plan. But no one's thought of actually clicking on it and seeing what comes up. And it is version 2 that we need, so even if they go to the first page, they need to click on version 2 to get the full information. Right, I think that's everything from me. I'll say 73s to everybody. Let me just find the test card again. I'll put the test card up and say 73s to everybody, and once I see it on my
Hopefully it's me next. Right, give you time to lock it up. Is there enough there? Possibly not, actually. 5 watts, so let's go back up a bit more. There we go. I'm now running about 10 watts at the feed, so sorry if that's excessive, but there you go. Right, picture of me again. Yeah, thank you, Roger. I'll show you what I meant in a second. I was actually referring to the band plan on the QO100 chat, the little blue squares that tell you how much bandwidth you're supposed to use in each one of those bits. But okay. Right, what I was going to do was I was going to show a picture of the device that Dave was showing. So this is the Winter Hill stroke Ryde 2 stroke BATC advanced receiver, whatever we're going to call it. It's had various names and it's easy to change things on the silk screen. This is an earlier version. There were a few things had to be corrected. I made 1 or 2 mistakes. So these are little plug-in cards which provide a power supply for LNBs. I don't know if you can see the mouse there, it's pretty small. But they there was an error on the board with the logic select, so I made a little daughter board to move them into the right direction so I could use them, but obviously that's been corrected on later versions. And they provide the LNB power supply, and then there's 2 tuners, tuner number 1, tuner number 2, and 2 PICs, and a Raspberry Pi with the compulsory, although not apparently, red heatsink case, which is what I'm using to keep it in, and then that all sits on the board and provides all the intelligence. The other few things about it are there's a device here. It's just a LM317, which is used for current limiting on a 12 volt supply to power one of the LMB sockets, if you so like. All the regulators are now switching for the low voltages. There's the normal interface to the button board and the infrared, although nothing's been implemented there, and some LEDs which tell you what's going on. So that's that new board, and the newer version, which has just been built up by Dave, has got some enhancements. It's also got a great big hole in the middle of it underneath the Pi, so you can fit a fan. Here's just another view of the thing from the other direction, just to show you what it looks like from there. And then I took all of that and a Vortex Star receiver, and I put it in that box and hacked out some holes. I've hacked out a few more holes since to mount this HDMI connector on an HDMI chassis mount, and there's a 12 volt power supply connection going in as well, and there's also a fan. I discovered I needed a fan, so there's a fan in here as well, and that's now providing a remote server at the moment. There are 10 buttons on the button board, and unfortunately there are only 8 buttons on the Vortex Star, which is a little bit disappointing, but it's got the major ones, so I can do most things once it's implemented. So I've wired that up, and that's it really for that. The other thing we were talking about were these bits in terms of the band plan. they sort of light up, and if you click on them they do interesting things. I'm not going to do it at the moment, but that gives you what bit rates you can run. If it'll really define the bit rate, it defines the bandwidth, and that's quite a useful reference. You'll see that's also implemented in Rob's Scan and Tune, which is what I'm using to tune the Winter Hill tuner. It won't currently tune the very narrow ones, but it'll tune most signals, so it's pretty good, and it's working very well. So that's what that is. Right, that's been long enough, I think, and sorry if you didn't manage to receive anything because it's in the wrong mode or the wrong aspect ratio. I'm setting H.265. It works fine on the Ryde. It works fine on Winter Hill. Whether it works or not on the mini tuner with the right aspect ratio, I don't really know, because I'm not currently running the mini tuner, although I've got it here. The next challenge is to get Ryde working at 35 kilosymbols, and I believe Brian has had some success in that sort of area, so that's another thing to look forward to. Okay, 7-3 everyone, keep safe, and catch you all next week. G0MJW. Oh, and I should say G4FKK next.
Let's get the headset on and swap the picture. Good, yeah, excellent stuff from everybody. Very interesting indeed. The new Ryde looks very exciting. Trouble is, as soon as I build something, I keep thinking of, oh, it'd be nice if it did that. And after reading some of Noel's posts, I'm not asking any questions like that because they're probably on somewhere. So I'll wait till you've clever blokes have done all that. But looks good. I was going to ask, and it's probably a stupid question as well, but it did look like the one with the Raspberry Pi built in hasn't got that strange USB board that the mini tuner has, which I think is a good thing. Everything else, I've got a few notes here, which I usually, as usual, can't read. Yeah, the 70s, I never got to colour, Mike. I lived very close to John, G8MNY, who was a very big signal on 70 on those days, and he had colour and got, sound and all the rest of it. So, but I stuck to me black and white with a closed circuit television camera and a great big C-mount lens that John lent me and that I found in my garage only last week. I'm still in regular contact with John most weeks on Top Band. I don't think he does telly anymore, and he doesn't want it back, so that's just as well. The only other thing I would say to you, Jim, I've fettled my 2-device amplifier that we were discussing on email, so it's now running more power and doing it in a cooler fashion as well, although I've still got 3 fans on it. And that's on its original heatsink with some other bits of aluminium bolted to it, but it looks horrible, so I won't demonstrate that. Anyway, I'll keep it quick. Thanks very much for having me on. Let me just make sure I haven't missed any notes or anything. The colour transmission, blah blah blah. Oh, I see. So with that, it's back round to you, Jim, and I will stick the test card on just so I can tell when I've finished. Thanks all, 73, and have a very good evening. G4FKK round to G7NTG.
Okie dokie. Right, turn the sound off. Good evening all again. Oh yes, I'm glad you're getting on all right with that, Martin. I'm pleased to hear that you're getting a bit more power, but of course you're really limited by that tiny little heatsink on it. It's really, really small, isn't it? you really need a monster heatsink that weighs a couple of kilos to get rid of that heat. So maybe you've got to take the pallet off the heatsink and bite the bullet and bolt it onto a bigger one. It's probably the only way. And good evening, Dionysius, SV8RV, who's watching as well. Yes, I did receive the Raspberry Pi 4 from you, all the way from Greece, today, thank you. And I've already put it all together with a mini tuner and had it working as a Ryde receiver, and it works very nicely. So that's all good. Let's see if there's anything else got to mention. Yes, Roger, the second of those pictures looks really much to me, really like the Welland River Bridge at Stamford. So that's Lincolnshire. So there's a possibility for you. I'll have a look and see if I can find another picture from the same angle and email it to you so you can have a look if I can find anything. Okay, and Jim, those power supplies look really good. That's really excellent, but unfortunately they're not quite powerful enough for me. And Nick, I do like your construction of the Ryde receiver. That's very, very neat. I wish I could do such nice work. I tend to be a metal basher, not a precision engineer like yourself, obviously. Right, okay then. So now I'm going to pass it on to you, Jim. G0DQH from G7NTG, and I'll say 73's all. And if John G7JTT is still working, don't work too hard, mate. I know what the post office is going through. A friend of mine works for them. So 73's all, and good night.
Yeah, I think everybody else has signed, so I was rather shocked when Dave said it was around to me. Anyway, putting on pictures from the past, I've got too embarrassing a picture simply because I'm out in the distance. But I do have one that really is embarrassing. I shall have to put that up one day and see what everybody makes of it. Go back to me now. I don't think this looks any better with the current picture. So just a few things. AAC, yeah, I really did want to alter the audio. I'm sorry about that. That's something I keep forgetting. And I ought to step in line with everybody else. Roger, I was going to say Rivington is. You said you didn't know where that was. I think I've misunderstood. You know, Rivington Pike is where the Masters. But I think it's me that's misunderstood, and I think you knew that. And thinking about it, that well, my first year up there was at Edgerton, which is not far away, and there must have been lots of mills like that in the valleys nearby. So it could easily be that it's up there. Another thing, Roger, yes, you were saying about people sticking to the channel. At least when you told me off for not being on the channel, you did so in a very polite way. And I was really happy to be reminded of that. But there are some other people on there a little bit like band police, if I can use that phrase, who showed how not to do it and who just turned me right off. And it's a real shame when people do that. But there you are, that's just my comment on that. Oh, going back to Manchester, Winter Hill and all of that, I don't know if anybody else ever looks at the videos of Martin Zero. I don't know what his last name really is. I just find those fascinating. As a Scottish student, I did look at a few places. I did go into Manchester, there was a lot of things I liked. But the sort of things he looked at, walking down rivers and culverts, it never occurred to me to do things like that. And this last year or two, looking at his videos, I've just found them really fascinating. So you've reminded me of that. And I know I shouldn't say this to Noel, because it'll make me look like an idiot, but you are going to put 3 more sides on that box, aren't you? You are, I know. So hopefully you've got a nice piece of U-shaped metal or wood to go over the optical box. But it's always interesting to see how other people are doing things, which is why I like to see what they've been doing in all those amateurs in Poland. And I like the way they started off on low power and are working the way up. I mean, Marek, for instance, has a flat light, but he hasn't used it yet. He can work up to that. But I reckon they should get up to 50 kilometres with what they've got. At the minute they're 32, 33 kilometres, something like that. I think it's just a matter of time, get the right day and the right path. Right, shut up Bernie, I think, is probably the next thing to say. Good catch everybody tonight, and see you all next week. I'll not bother putting the test card on. I'll just drop the carrier, and who does it go on to? Oh, Nick's still there, is he? Good. Oh yes, it was Nick. Yes, that's who I was going to say. Apologies about the audio, Nick. That was my fault. I'll sort that out by next week.
Got it. Okay, everybody. I think that's got the audio issues sorted out. I should have thought to press the auto pig button, shouldn't I? Never mind. Yeah, Jim, thanks for comments on the construction there. You can probably imagine getting all the holes for the push buttons was tricky. I think it took me 2 nights in all. I initially made this little template out of a bit of printed circuit board. It's not particularly well lined up. I used that to try and get the holes in the Ryde receiver there best as I could. I didn't want to spoil the front panel. These cases do cost quite a bit, and I think I must have spent 2 nights just on the front there. The back of the thing, that's obviously where the Pi connections come out, and I wanted the Pi HDMI at the back. Now if I can get close enough, you can see it's a standard HDMI connector there, and what's used inside, I don't know if you can see it, there it is. It's an adapter from the micro to the standard. It got it from the Pi Hut, and that's held in place against the backplate with a piece of printed circuit board and some screws and standoffs and things. It seems to hold in pretty good there. Working here, it's a bit tricky. I've only got the one desk, and I find in room is an issue. Bit of unprofessional camera work now. I've got the camera, it's just stuck on with a bit of blue tack on a bit of equipment. I'll take it off and I'll show you the room I've got to build in. It's coming up now. Hopefully. Right, here we are. The camera sits on the blue tack there. There's one at monitors. And got the controller box for the amplifier outside. Below it there's another little box for the powering the LMB up, and I can select either resolution, and I'm using MIDI tune on there. I'm back on again. My signal seems down a bit tonight, doesn't it? So yeah, it's there. It's down a bit. Yeah, professional camera work there. I must get a stand for this for this camera. Oh dear. Anyway, there we are. We're back. Anyway, that's the room. I have to get everything put away then when I finish tonight, because not only is it the operating bench, the construction bench, it's also the work from home bench. So as you can probably imagine, everything does have to get moved. I want to get another monitor. Well, I've got the monitor. I've nowhere to put it. It only came the other day. It's an 11-inch monitor which I'm intending to use with the Ryde. I've very little room at the moment to put it anywhere, so I've got that to sort out. So quite a lot to do, and as I say, when I've done any building, all the tools have got to go away for the next day's work. Anyway, I think it's over to Dave now, isn't it?
Seems to be working. Right. Okay, a good evening's worth of signals. Nick, your signal strength, you were 1.4 below the beacon, which is only 0.4 of a dB below the recommended level, so not too bad at all. I'm 0.7 of a dB above the recommended level according to the band plan. Yeah, band plan, it's... If people are sensible, I'm not sure it matters, but it's guidance to make sure that people are sensible, if you know what I mean. And enforcing it is a little difficult. We had some problems in the early days as well, but generally I think behaviour is fairly good. Okay, yeah, Mike mentioned the hole in the bottom of the PCB. I've sorted out some lighting, and hopefully you can see the hole for the fan in there. I haven't yet put a fan in mine. I've been monitoring the pi temperature, and with one tuner it's running about 65, 70. So no fan yet, but it will get one before it goes in a box. Mike, I'm pleased to hear that Brian's had success with the Winter Hill at 35. I will look to take that and backport it into the normal Ryde as well. And of course, yeah, that board does not have a USB module on it, and that was one of the design aims. It's really reduced the cost and increased the simplicity. Martin, I did find my old logbook and couldn't find you in there, but I used to work John MNY very regularly, and also Andy JDH, what did he became G4 something or other, who is still around, and I think he runs one of the clubs down there now. We used to do TTV together with Roger as well, and I used to run that valve camera that Roger had, a different version of it. G6 video, no, don't remember that call, but that was, being a G6 call, that would be after my time in South London. I left home in 79 and started moving around the world. Right, really interesting net. Thanks for everybody for their contributions. There will, as Noel mentioned, there will be more discussion in CQTV about all the various projects, but I'm sure you'll understand that we need to get a project to a certain standard before we can publish it as a BATC project that is supported. And with when you're combining software and hardware, that's quite a difficult ask. Good night all, and leave the channel free for a free-for-all. G8GKQ closing the BATC net, and see you next week.
quickly on the free-for-all, just to show something very quickly. Let me go to the right camera. There we go. Ignore that. That's just the knocker. Right. So try and get it aimed right. Helps to look at the monitor rather than to look at the. So I have one of these displays as well. So I just 3D printed something. I don't know if this is going to work, but it's just sitting on the back. The Pi is sitting on the back on a standard Visa mount. Works quite well. And I printed a sort of a wedge type thing, which has got my call sign on it, but it doesn't have to stop it falling over much better than the stand it comes with. And this little thing here is the box with the buttons in it, which could probably do with some improvement, like being incorporated into the stand. So that was it. I was just going to show you that. Oh, and the other thing is, if you look on the web page, you should find this. It's important to get it the right way up, of course. But that's the button board in 3D, which you can just print out on a piece of paper. Print it 1-to-1, and that'll give you a template for where you need to drill the holes. Of course, you could use the PCB as well, but it's sometimes more difficult to do that. Right. Anyway, I'm probably running excessive power as well, so sorry about that. G0MJW.